Hi everyone. So this is going to be a video kind of talking about my spiritual journey to awakening, journey to where I am at life right now, and how kind of I understand the world and different realities, different methods, different teachings. And so for me, it all started despite having, this channel where I talk a lot. I mean, I've always been very quiet, almost to the extreme where I couldn't talk. If I was handed the phone as a child, I would cry. I did not want to talk on the phone. So there's been a long journey for me to get where I am now, and I'll get into that later. But as a really young child, I think I was 6, I discovered that I had this really great talent of being able to do anything really athletic very well. So I quickly found swimming among other sports, but swimming became kind of my my best one. So by 6 years old, I was training twice a day, and by 8, 8 to 10, it was up to like 4 or 5 hours a day. As I got older, I got to 6 hours a day. Just really understanding this vessel of a body, how to hone energy in this body. And while doing it, while you're swimming, you're forced to go in within yourself. You're only there with your thoughts. You can't hear anything under the water. Just your repetitive movements. It's a very meditative state, very reflective. And it helped me stay this calm-centered person all my life. So I've always had this ability to go within whenever I had an issue, or ask my inner self for guidance and the silence that I feel like a lot of people today really avoid. It's almost like it's difficult. I've heard so many times, I can't turn off my mind. I can't meditate. I can't even sit for a minute. And I think there's, a lot of things that come out of that are a little bit harmful. And so my journey started there. I left home when I was 13 and that started off my journey, setting out on the world, being on my own. I lived with a bunch of Caribbean girls, Jamaican, Barbadian, Barbados, Bahamas, from all over the Caribbean somehow. And they taught me about culture. I love reggae music, and it opened my eyes, though, to, life outside the kind of small farm town that I grew up in. And it brought excitement, and we bonded because we were always training together. These were girls from around the world that their governments would send them to this one place, and we'd all train together. So there was this discipline there. There was no time to experiment with, mind-altering things, or, just party and be stupid. We were very regimented. Our extracurricular time was spent with, human one-to-one fun interactions. And I'm so blessed for that experience. After that, I knew where I wanted to go to college. I've always, kind of had my mindset on certain things. And even if I wasn't the best student, I knew I was going there anyway. And I found a way. I'm just kind of like that. And so I went to University of California, Berkeley, where I studied a lot of meditation, mysticism, and the mind. I met lots of interesting gurus, really, pushed me out of my comfort zone. I was forced to, for one exercise, act silly in the middle of campus. So there I was in this group of, hippies who were all tickling each other and goofily laughing and doing cartwheels as my sports team walks by and shouting my name. So it's releasing this, sense of pride, sense of ego, this sense of identity, this false identity of being cool, or, being whatever you think you are, and learning to just be this fun-loving person, this disciplined person, this person that has, good intentions, sticking to this sense of morals. And this might have something to do with the fact that I'm a Taurus, I'm an earth sign. I really appreciate dependability, all the qualities of Taurus, so reliability. And, through this sport, I learned so much about retaining energy and using it to build my muscles, build my body, build my mind. I was forced, this would give me anxiety, but I was forced to control my breath. We used to have to do 75 meters underwater without breathing. That's really difficult, especially if it's just in the middle of a set. It's like you finish and you're out of breath and you have to go right into it and it starts again. So it was really difficult, pushing my mind to this point where I had to do it. I forced myself to do it because I was with this team of, world record holders and Olympic athletes all on my team, that if I messed up, we'd all have to start again. I don't like that method, but, it trained something in me, to never give up, to always pursue this, experiment with yourself, with your body, with your breath, with all these elements, with your mind. It's all mind control, and using it for a positive output, using it for betterment. So with that, honestly too, when you get to this pinnacle where you're kind of like the best in the world, or one of the best in the world, it's almost like, for me, my life became a little bit unbalanced. My first few semesters, I was a straight A student. And the next one, I realized I wasn't happy with what I was doing. The sport was overtaking my life. I was holding down 3 jobs to pay my rent. In San Francisco, it's insane. So, school fell by the wayside. And, I had to really take a moment and examine my life and what's really important. I'm doing all these great things. I'm at a great school. I'm doing my best, but it's not working. Something has to give. And that happens a lot in our lives, in everything, in relationships, in everything. Basically, it's a constant self-analysis, taking stock of where we are in our life and deciding, are we happy with this or not, and changing it. Sometimes they're really big changes. It's difficult to walk away from something that's been a part of your identity for 15, 20 years. And it's important to, be able to take this leap of faith, because inevitably you're going to grow from it. You're going to learn something. It's going to be hard. And after that, after college, I moved to New York, and I lived that life of really chasing after this. I just refocused this energy into being successful and climbing the corporate ladder and, doing things over and over again, that with my head down, I didn't even look up. I had these goals and I had everything I thought I wanted to accomplish, and I was working really hard for it. I did my job really well. I went over and beyond. I gave my relationships 110%, everything. I was just giving. And I looked up one day. I was living in this fancy penthouse down on Water Street. So that's like the financial district. I had this nice saltwater pool, sun deck, doorman, a relationship that most people from the outside would see like, wow, that's amazing. You have it all. And I thought I did until I realized I didn't want any of it. I was bored. I was complacent. I was like, what the heck is this life? I have this. I don't want this. So I began researching a bit more about spirituality. You know, I'd always taken classes in New York. I'd studied tarot with the tarot curator for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I studied with all these psychics and intuitives, Reiki, you know, you name it, I've tried it. I went to this one psychic for a speech. He did a really great speech, and it was really interesting, and he made us turn to our partner next to us and stare in each other's eyes for 2 hours. And mine was this little old lady from the Upper East Side. So it was like this really interesting experience of just getting away any fear. Anyways, so where was I? So yeah, I had taken all these classes, and nothing had really been like, wow, like my life should change. I've always just kind of gone from one thing to the next and picked up my bit of information that resonates for my life and how I think I can use that. And I've moved on. I'm kind of always in search of wisdom or knowledge. Kind of, you know, in a way that, I don't know, I feel like if you seek wisdom, you really do need to investigate many things. So I just started off on this path, and, you know, once I came to the realization that I had everything I thought I wanted, and I didn't, you know, then depression sets in. It's like this unsettling feeling like you've wasted so many years of your life, which really aren't wasted, but, you know, there's this moment where it all kind of crashes down on you, you know, the tower moment in the tarot. So I began researching and alternative remedies to depression and all this stuff. At the time, I was ironically dating this man who was the first and foremost authority in the world to the efficacy of drugs. So he was like big pharma CEO type Wall Street, like major life lesson for me. You know, he was definitely in my life for a purpose to teach me that, you know, the way people think about these, you know, abstract ideas of, you know, alternative healing, or, so he was like, my dear, you know, think about this. If alternative medicine really worked, wouldn't you think, with all the billions of dollars all these companies have, they would have put it into a pill now? Don't be ignorant. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. I'm going to continue researching. So I did, and I came across this National Geographic article about ayahuasca and how it has magical effects for depression, all this stuff. So I was curious. Needless to say, my partner, basically, our relationship came to the point where it was like, either you choose me or you choose your spirituality, which is a very big marking point in my life. I was like, wow, this is really important to me. I would never give that up for a man with, you know, a man, please. And why would somebody ever make you choose that? This is like your consciousness. This is your life. So that was an easy decision. So I left, and I decided to fly to the jungles of Iquitos and participate in one of these ayahuasca ceremonies. I'd read all these articles about, you know, psychologists and doctors who have gone down there, and they call it the 10 years of psychotherapy or talk therapy in one night. So me being me, I need to experience it. I need to see it. And I've never been interested in mind-altering things. I'm never a big drinker. I don't drink now. I'm never drugs or anything. So when I read about stuff that's been around for however many thousands of years, it piques my interest. You know, it's around for a reason. So that kind of led me down there. And so basically what it is this vine from the jungle and this leaf. So the vine is Mysterious Cappy vine, and the leaf is Trichruna. And Trichruna, only they use that specifically because it contains a high level of DMT, which DMT is present in every plant on Earth. This one has a particularly high amount. And we as humans produce it in our brains. So this DMT is released when we die and when we're born and when we're dreaming. So, and this vine combined with it, you know, it's this MAOI blocker. So naturally, if we ate a lot of leaves, and we wouldn't have this experience because our stomach produces these enzymes that would block it. So this root comes in and blocks it. So we get this experience of this release in our brain where essentially you're talking to your higher self. That's how I explain it. You go into this, what you would understand as a dream world, where I could still open my eyes and have this intelligent conversation just as I am now, but with this God consciousness. So very interesting experience, to say the least. Everybody that I had gone there with, I think it was like a group of 40 people, which is really large. They were all business type CEOs, Silicon Valley, people looking for wisdom, because you can ask a question and it will give you a response, and that's pretty mind-blowing. So there were all these kind of academic type people there, and you know, for me, you're supposed to go in with an intention, and mine was, you know, what's my purpose in life? What's my path? And it talked a lot about consciousness and exploring the plants, healing plants of the world. Food is the medicine, everything about plants, because, you know, if you really think of the odds, you know, with all these millions of unknown species of plants in the Amazon, somehow the indigenous people thousands of years ago thought to boil these two things down for 24 hours and try it out. So the odds are pretty slim. But there's been lots of documentaries on it. I think there's one on Netflix called The Spirit Molecule. And there's one on, what's the other one called? The Reality of Truth, Metamorphosis, the Ayahuasca documentary. So anyways, I did that for a few years. I lived in the jungles, and then in the mountains of the Andes Mountains in Ecuador and Peru, doing these different fasts and diets and liquid cleanses and purging, sweating out for days with no contact with people, meditating, disconnecting from the world, really coming to this clear vision. You know, these electronics really dull us, and I can't emphasize it more, and I see the irony of it, of me making a video and you're watching electronics right now, but I mean, whatever you can to disconnect a little bit more, it's really going to help you. It's going to help your mind, your body, your soul. And so after a few years there, I transitioned to another kind of consciousness. I started working at a retreat center, or rehabilitation center, really, for all of these really wealthy people with addiction. So basically, the people that would come to us for this alternative healing from their addictions, they had gone to, you know, these really fancy drug rehab places, mostly for opiate addictions. I mean, that's a huge thing in the US right now. So they would come after spending, millions of dollars for treatment in the US, which is, basically going on methadone, another form of government heroin or whatever it is. The government just puts you on different things. That's what they allow is legal for you to recover, or you basically have to white knuckle it. But there is this African root that is highly effective. I'm sure you might have seen some Vice show from years ago about Ibogaine or Iboga. It goes by both. So basically what it does is resets your dopamine receptors. There's a scene in Black Panther where they go take this drink and meet their ancestors. This is Ibogaine. I firsthand witnessed these people with, these would be really hurting people with addictions, the taking as much heroin to kill an elephant at the time they got there, to a month later being like, I don't even want a cigarette. My body only wants pure fruits and vegetables, organic everything. And not having that craving anymore, not having to white knuckle it. I mean, there are realities. You have to go back to the same situation you were in before, the same people, the same environment, but having this chance, this reset, I mean, it's possible. There's this energetic recalibration. There's intelligence higher than us here. I know I sound like a weirdo. I wouldn't be speaking about it if I haven't seen it firsthand, because it really does work. It really does. But it's dangerous too. Especially ayahuasca. If you are already on antidepressants, you want to research the heck out of it and, only get interested in it if you are fully detox of, MAOIs or any, serotonin type stuff that affects your brain. So, after I lived in Mexico for a while doing that, treating people with Ibogaine and ayahuasca and the Gershon therapy and, just eating whole foods, organic, vegan lifestyle. And, restoring this mind-body connection. I mean, there was a total disconnect for a lot of people, just hurt. A lot of people with addictions and, mental issues that came for ayahuasca. This is just an energy imbalance. This is just something that can be corrected. These are people that are highly empathic. These are people, in Africa that are celebrated because they believe that, there's so much energy coming into this body that this person received that they can't balance it out quite yet. And they help them. Back to when I was living outside of Tarapoto in the jungle. This is when I was in seclusion for a long time. I was drinking these drinks and, the medicine man was like, your throat, you need to clear your chakras because your throat is so blocked. Again, back to this mind-body connection. You can have it all in your mind, but if it's not reaching down to the rest of your body, you have this imbalance, and that's going to create chaos in your body. And he was right, especially as a Taurus, I rule the throat area. And it goes back to this childhood thing where I never wanted to speak, and that it goes even deeper psychologically and energetically to, my parents and all this stuff, but I won't go there. But, this is a place in the middle of the jungle where, thousands of people would come. They don't do advertising. It's donation based, but they come because they get healed. Like a lot of Westerners. And it's literally jungle huts, this is bare bones, this is rough. Like, you really need to want to heal. And so he proceeded to put leeches all around my neck to suck out the toxins to start the process. So I was like bleeding out of my neck and stuff. Probably shouldn't be sharing this here with you, but I mean, I watched them grow them themselves. It's not like, anyways, I won't go into that, but it was just part of the process. And me seeking wisdom, I have to experience it myself. I can't say I'll do something. I can't eat meat if I'm not willing to kill the animal myself. That's just the way I am. So here I am speaking clearly. I used to have a stutter and I used to choke up on my words. Clearly because I have stuff to say. I have all this teachings, these experiences that I've gone through that need to kind of come out. There's a lot of shifts going on in the world, a lot of awakenings happening. And it's about helping. It's about, just contributing in any small way you can. Meditate. I mean, these things, these substances, go to marijuana. People go to marijuana to lift their mood a little bit. Like depression, it'll lift your mood a little bit. So I can see the benefits of it. Or like any of these other mind-altering drugs, it'll awaken you, but the power is really in meditation, this honing of energy, this mind. Once you master your mind, like it's all mastered, really. That's the hardest part. So, yes, I'm on a path back to Central America right now to continue studying and working. And my consciousness is just really open, and my perspective might be a little bit different than most people. And I hope to share that. I think we all have free will, and we all have the power to change our circumstances, power to even change, destiny, power to like rewrite our own story and live in a way we want to, take risks. I don't live anywhere. I live out of bags. I travel, and I'm constantly seeking information. And one day I will sit down and realize, yes, okay, what I already know now, that it's all within, is still there, but I still want to experience it. It's just part of my human makeup. I want to experience it, and I'm okay with that. I will understand pieces within, yes, but for now, I'm continuing this journey. Tarot is all about that journey. They say people that master the Book of Thoth will master, I don't know what they say, the world or universe. There's some saying out there. But, the tarot is thought to be, a visual representation of the Book of Thoth, which is supposedly like one of the oldest books from ancient Egypt or whatever. And it's a way to open your intuition. It's a way to clear your mind and go into this meditative state, and to really, it's a way of practicing listening to your inner guide. So once you practice and you practice more, it just develops. So it's another way, it's another tool to tap into this unseen energy. And eventually it will be seen. You'll be able to see it. Especially with meditation. I mean, I can't harp on meditation enough, because that's really the path. That's really the answer. And these other things are just awakenings. And for me, it was an awakening. Spending all these years, I used to do these sweat lodge ceremonies for days, fasting for days, no food, no water for days. really extreme things, at Sundance in Ecuador, they the shamans, they put hooks in each other's backs and they have to dance there with no food and water for days. And it's all about this mind control. And, most people would probably not survive, but because, they're in so much control of who they are, their bodies, it's like mind over matter, right? So, because we're just, 1% matter, 99% nothing. So it's, this whole illusion thing. So they've mastered this illusion. I forget where I was going with this. But, yeah, there's a lot of power in fasting and getting clear in this world of overloading information, overloading, one thing I don't like about tarot is people kind of come to it because they are seeking the future. They're living in the future. And what does that create? That creates an anxiety. That creates this lack of control that is in your own hands. So I try to use tarot as an empowerment tool to teach you this exact message, right? That it's really in your control. These are what the outside forces are, but I'm not going to tell you what to do because you're in control of your own life. I want to empower you. So I invite everybody to get a deck and start training this part of their mind, training their inner knowing, because there's this movement of, really awakened souls. This whole vegan movement's really gaining traction finally. I think it went from like 3% of Americans identified with it in 2014, and now 2018, it's like 7%. That's a huge jump. Not saying that's the answer, but create this connection with your food. Give thanks for your food before you eat it. It changes, the vibration. Google, I forget what his name is, that scientist who a long time ago did this kind of consciousness study on rice, and he said, to one jar of rice every day, I love you. And the next jar of rice, he would say, I hate you. And the next jar of rice, he would just look at it and ignore it, or not even look at it. And the jar of rice that, he said, I loved you, it was white, it was beautiful, it just stayed there. The jar of rice that he said, I hate you, it turned black. And the one he ignored, it's like it rotted, like smelled gross. So apply this in your life, if there's something rotting inside of you, if you've been ignored, address this. This is how cancer comes about and all these other issues. These are all just energetic manifestations of our mind. So control your mind and you control your body, you control your health, and your health is, kind of everything. Mental health, physical health. So that's kind of my consciousness as I proceed. I love yoga too. It's just not my thing. I do it all the time. For a few years, I did it every day. But, the intensity of the physical is not there for me anymore. I had it for so many years. I kind of do stuff as it comes. I take how I feel into account every day. Like it's raining outside, so I'm gonna see how I feel later if I want to go to the gym, because I didn't want to this morning. It was too cold and it was raining, so take into account how you feel, but also be disciplined at the same time. It's like this fun little balance we get to experience. We can go into like honing your energy through celibacy. So, a lot of these videos I've done on here, it's like making videos about helping people and sharing my insights to the secrets of the universe. And people will still be like, I see your boobs, boobs. It's like, dude, control that. that's just such a simple, like, primal thing that if you just controlled that energy and like refocused in on yourself, you'd gain a lot of power, because clearly you have a lot of energy to put out, right? So if you're not with a partner, practice celibacy. See how that energy, can transform your life, really. It's all about focusing on you instead of versus focusing on another person. And once you kind of come to that realization, you can get your own tarot deck and start, doing your own readings for yourself. Tap into yourself, because you'll be so acutely aware of who you are as a person. You might not even need to consult anybody. So I hope, honestly, that these videos about tarot are only temporary for you. They're here for people that are in a really difficult situation, but don't get yourself caught in this loop that you're looking to outside, looking for somebody to tell you what to do, because only you can do that. This is free will. This is Earth. So, anyways, this is a long video, and it's probably has some people scratching their heads, but this has been my experience through life. I'm sure I will share many more stories and places I've been and people I've studied with, to maybe expand your mind or get you into researching something to better yourself, so you can then better your environment, your life, the world. This is a collective consciousness. So every little thing you can do to play your part, just meditating every day, it's going to help. It's really going to help the world. So anyways, that's my spiel. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little bit of inspiration or knowledge or insight to me and my consciousness. So thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, week, and year.